of life to Long Island Sound. They also serve as great filters, great natural filters that absorb pollutants and protect the sound from having those pollutants come in. 70% of all life in Long Island Sound is dependent on the life that grows in salt marshes. What we're looking at here is Johnson Creek, which drains into the Lewis Gut in Bridgeport, Connecticut, which in turn drains into Long Island Sound. We're looking at a very sort of infamous part of Johnson Creek, because just to the less than 100 feet away is the equally infamous Mount Trashmore. Mount Trashmore was bought here by the owners of Connecticut Building Wrecking. That's the Capizzello family. Prior to that mountain of trash accumulating, you had a transition area, an area where we went from industrial to residential. And now we have the industrial on this side, Mount Trashmore in the middle, and residential up and down both streets on the other side. Many multi-family houses and of course many children. And here we have Mount Trashmore with hardly a fence around it to stop children from playing in it. It burns regularly, and when it burns, the smoke goes into these neighborhoods and the people suffer from that. Mount Trashmore was made up of primarily demolition debris, and the only legal place to put that kind of debris is in a bulky waste landfill. Several weeks ago, the National Toxics Campaign tested the runoff from Mount Trashmore and found exceptionally high levels of lead and cadmium. If you look over to the right of the salt marsh, there's a little opening where the cars go by on the street. The drainage and the runoff and the leaching from Mount Trashmore run right across that street and directly into Johnson Creek. That's the runoff that we tested. That's the runoff that proved to have high lead levels and high cadmium levels. And that's the runoff that's creating a hazard to Long Island Sound and the life within it. One of the amazing things about nature is that when toxics get in water, you get a thing called biomagnification and bioaccumulation. The tiniest of organisms in that salt marsh and in this creek will eat a small amount of all those toxins. And then the next larger organism will eat hundreds of the little organisms that first collected it. Because by collecting it, they're trying to clean up. Nature is cleaning up the pollutants that are put in there. And then the next larger organism eats the next lower class, until you get right out into the water and into the sound itself, where you've got the smaller fish eating the tiny organisms. And then you have the larger fish eating the smaller fish. And what happens is all the way through that chain, you are accumulating and magnifying the effect of the heavy metals and the other toxins that run out of that pile. So when you get to the bluefish and the striped bass, you've got fish that are eating thousands of smaller fish that have already collected the heavy metals. So no matter how much you dilute what comes out of that pile, nature just puts it back together again. It's sort of like a big vacuum cleaner. And at the bluefish at the top of the bag are like a vacuum cleaner bag. They've collected all the dirt, all the toxins. And on the other side, as you can see, winds frequently blow off Johnson Creek, and that takes the odor, takes the dust from the pile and blows it into the neighborhoods. And there again, we have a major health problem for the people that live there. Yet despite all this, and despite all the potentials, until recently, the Department of Environmental Protection has done virtually no testing. And even today, there has been no in-depth testing of that pile to determine how hazardous or how toxic it is. Even the tests that the National Toxics Campaign did were only surface tests. They tested the leachate coming out. Strong indication. I mean, it has to be coming from somewhere, so that's a very good reason to test the entire pile. But instead of that, the Department of Environmental Protection simply came down and took surface tests, mixed them together, and ran a dilution test that would show what would happen if it were put in a landfill. Well, it's already there, and the toxics that we measured coming out are the that's what really happened. It's not a simulation, and that would be the better test to take in this instance. Even of greater concern, recently DEP in the City of Bridgeport decided to take this, instead of taking it to the bulky waste landfill or to a hazardous waste disposal facility, they've taken it to an incinerator that's licensed to burn municipal solid waste. The heavy metals that are in this pile will then be refined to their purest states. 1800 degrees will break down anything that's capturing them in the same way that acids would break it down if it were in a landfill, only it will be done almost instantly. So every ounce of heavy metal that's in there will be refined to its natural state and go up through the stack. Some of it will be caught in the pollution controls, but the rest, and if the stuff that's caught, will go down into the fly ash and produce toxic fly ash. The stuff that doesn't will go into the air and into the lungs and onto the ground and into the food chain surrounding the incinerator. There's no getting around these. These are just basic elemental facts that once you refine a heavy metal to, such as lead or aluminum, cadmium, and of course worst of all mercury, because we know that MSW incinerators do not catch mercury very well. Once you refine those metals to their elemental states, they're here forever. Nothing's going to re-encapsulate them to where they were before they burned. And that's where the hazard comes in. And that's where the danger of burning this stuff, especially without knowing what's in it, comes into play.
Let's have to look up the tide. Tide now.
Yeah. Right now, as we can see from the bank over here, the tide is just a couple of feet below Mount Trashmore, or below the level of the bottom of Mount Trashmore. And this is a typical high tide. A moon high tide would be slightly higher, and of course a stormy high tide may put the sound right over into the bottom of Mount Trashmore. It's very important to notice that whatever toxins are in Mount Trashmore is roughly 2 stories above water level, and perhaps maybe 2.5 to 3 stories at low tide. So whatever is in Mount Trashmore, when it rains and this tide drops, just the force of gravity will take that underground, and it will go underground and directly into the sound, or into Johnson Creek, where it will drain back out into the sound. And all those toxins will come with it.
And other contaminants may be carried out with the sound.
Right, and other contaminants will come right out, will also come with it. And we don't know what those other contaminants are because we haven't had the testing done. And it should be here. And once they're in the sound, they will bioaccumulate, they'll biomagnify, and it will have a definite impact on our food chain. We just have to go not a mile from here, and you'll find people fishing. And of course, people fish for the big fish. They look for the bluefish. And they'll be fishing right on a dock where Lewis Gut drains into the sound. Fish that come out of this gut are going to be eating the fish and the other organisms that have already been contaminated.
Okay, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Bill Garrett. I've been working with the community groups here and with the Connecticut Conservation Association in trying to find some real solutions to cleaning up Mount Trashmore. As you can see, this neighborhood really needs help. So we've been working together with the Greater Bridgeport Interfaith Action, with local neighborhood people, to try to get everybody to come together and try to bring our government agencies, the DEP, the City of Bridgeport, to their senses about this, to have them really look at the facts and say, look, we've got to take care in getting rid of Mount Trashmore. We can't just do it on the cheap and do it quick, because that endangers everyone's health, and it endangers the environment and the viability of Long Island Sound. What life is left here in Johnson Creek is supported by tidal flushing, but when the life gets out of the mainstream, the chances of it surviving get small, very small. If you look at the surface of this water, you'll see that there's a layer of scum on top of it. And you'll see that there's oil-type substances here. The same type of oil substances you'll see running out of Mount Trashmore from time to time. You'll also see some dead life. We've seen some jellyfish, bottom up, dead, a horseshoe crab, a young horseshoe crab, and the likelihood of fish surviving in these little inlets that do not get adequate tidal flushing is very, very small. Doesn't mean that all of this is coming from Mount Trashmore. Surely there are more sources of pollution here, but Mount Trashmore has got to be the largest. Preservatives to add here. But we're not allowed to put those kind of piles in the water now. Okay, we're here on the other side of Johnson Creek now, right beside our infamous mountain. And if you'll look over here, you'll see that we're about 8 hours after the rain has stopped. It stopped early this morning. It's a little after 12 now. And you'll see over on the corner of Mount Trashmore, the water is draining out of the pile, across the street, and directly into Johnson Creek. It's not going into the drains. It's not going anywhere where it could be collected and taken care of, but it's going directly into Johnson Creek. Closing. This is the same area that the National Toxics Campaign took their leachate samples from, and also after a rain. So we had roughly the same conditions as we have right now. And as you can see, it's running right down and into the creek. For several months, in the latter part of last year and the early part of this year, the owners of this pile had fire hoses spraying on it continuously in an effort to keep the fires down. And of course, everything that drained out from those fire hoses drained right into the sound. And this creates both a potential and an actual hazard to the environment of Johnson Creek. And given those facts, state law and federal law would require that the emergency removal fund on the federal level and the emergency spill relief fund on the state level be used to clean this up as a hazardous waste, which would mean there'd be protection for the community during the collection process. There'd be protection for the community during the collection process, and it would be put into an area that would be safe. And it would also preserve the evidence in the event that any of these people have future lawsuits that they wish to actions they wish to take either against the state, the city, or the Capozellos. Instead, we're getting a quick, cheap removal that says burn the future evidence, and to hell with what's happened to Johnson Creek or any of the people that are here.
Okay, go ahead.
See, the one fact that our little video here doesn't bring forward is the odor coming out of this pile. I don't think I could stand here very long without getting very sick. And this is the same odor that people who live in this neighborhood have to put up with 24 hours a day. Their kids have to breathe it when they're playing on the streets. Another interesting point is that this is the first time, now that they've started removal, this is what you're looking at here, is the beginning of the removal. What we're looking at is the first day's work. This is where the big bites out of the side of Mount Trashmore are. That's where they've been removing it. The city and the state are working to take the pile to the incinerator. And this is the result of the first day and a half's work. As you can see, it's opened up the pile. During that process, they started the work before it rained. You could see the dust blowing off the trucks and into the neighborhood. And we're likely to never know whether or not that was toxic dust or not. The waste in this pile is a mixture of demolition debris and municipal solid waste. And under the EPA rules of testing mixtures, if any element within a mixture is toxic or is hazardous, it's listed as a hazardous element, and it's found to be part of a mixture, then the entire mixture must be considered and treated as a hazardous waste. In this case, the very leachate coming out of it was found to have high levels of listed hazardous materials. Yet we still find the state saying we're going to treat it as municipal solid waste instead of either demolition debris or hazardous waste. It's simply a linguistic reclassification that totally ignores the facts and totally ignores the science that underlies what's happening here. Both the state and the federal governments have spent millions upon millions of dollars developing a disposal system that has separate destinations for hazardous waste, for the disposal of demolition debris, and the disposal of municipal solid waste. Each has a separate destination that's designed to protect the public and the public health from the potential hazards within that kind of waste. Here we have hazardous waste, or at least a high potential for hazardous waste, definitely toxic materials, definitely demolition debris, and some municipal solid waste. And the entire pile is being treated as municipal solid waste, and it's being burned. That is not licensed to burn this type of material. And the reason it's not licensed, that is because it's not designed or built to safely burn it.
Go.
Here we have a little lake Trashmore, and no doubt it's been made up from the drainage from the top of Trashmore right on down through, and now it's beginning to accumulate here. It's going to be very interesting to see what the DEP people and the city do with this particular piece of water. If they come in and just put a hole in it and let it drain into Johnson Creek, then they're very clearly violating the law. That would be an illegal discharge. So it's going to be interesting, and I hope I'm here on Monday morning when they come down to go back to work.
All right, go ahead.
Here we've got, just on the side of the pile, we've gotten some old, some chemical putties, some fillers. It looks like materials used in actually building. As you can see, they've been on fire at one point, as most of this pile is burned at one point or another. And it's usually spontaneous combustion. This has almost certainly fallen from up above. Let's go down here.
Hey, Bill.
Please get a stick. I'm looking for something obvious. Demolition is shingle. Obviously demolition. Here we've got shingles, which are obviously demolition debris. Siding. We've got plastic siding or vinyl siding from houses or sheds. Underneath here, we've got painted wallboard. I don't know if you can see that or not. That wallboard there, material on it that's painted, and almost certainly the paint contains lead or mercury. As you is all from older buildings, older building materials. If that were a modern building, you wouldn't have that type of board. And there's more shingles under there, which have, of course, petroleum-based products in them. Plastics. And this is broken up wood, part of the stuff that's been burning so much, ground and shredded wood, all of which comes from tearing down buildings, tearing down houses. And with that comes all the toxics that are in the houses, all the paints, all the sprays, all the stuff that's been absorbed into the wood over the years. And it comes here, and this is why it can't be burned as a fuel or even recycled, because it is contaminated, and that's why we have bulky waste landfills that are designed to protect this kind of thing. Excuse me. Oh, God, the smell is-
Okay, Bill.
Over here we've even got carpets and the materials used to hold the carpeting down. No doubt all of that really are treated with chemicals to preserve it. Chemicals in the glues, and when that stuff is burned, those chemicals will be released. And you got BX cabling. Still got the wires within it and the plastic coating on the wires. It's illegal to put plastic in the incinerator, particularly that type of plastic, because it contains vinyl chlorides. It's those kind of things that create dioxins when they get together with benzene in a hot atmosphere.
What'd you say?
I said, this smell is really making me sick, so we're going to have to cut our tour a little bit short. But here you've got some more shingles. You can see here's some shingles that are still nailed to the roof. This is clearly demolition debris. So what we have here up on the top of Mount Trashmore is a city block, an entire city block that has become the neighbor to the people that live in these homes, and the people that bought these homes and decided to make their home here. This is what the state of Connecticut and the city of Bridgeport has allowed to become their neighbor. I'm finding it very difficult to even stay here because of the odor. And yet they have to live with it 24 hours a day, every day of the week, and they have to live with the health impact of breathing this kind of air. Get one shot up there so you can get the...
Bill, you're back on. Gotta speak loud.
Okay, now we're down at the south edge of Mount Trashmore, and just about a full block's length we have nothing but Mount Trashmore. At least 2 stories high. You can see the chimney of the Connecticut Building Wrecking Company is below the level of where we are. Okay, as you can see, we're at least 2 stories high. The chimney of Mount Trashmore, the chimney of Connecticut Building Wrecking is right ahead of us, and it's below the level we're at now, and we're not even at the peak. And as you can see right straight ahead, you see one peak after another, and that gives you some idea of how long and just how much waste is here, and just how much contamination is here. And everywhere we look, we see wiring, we see BX cable, we see all the indications that burning this material would not be safe, not in an incinerator that's built to do only municipal solid waste. BX cable with the plastic on it?
Yeah. Oh, Bill, before we leave,
As we can see, the fencing is hardly adequate.
okay.
Here we've got another drainage point. And you can see the wood chips that are all piled together there. And during the heavier rains, we had a continuous drain coming out of here. You can also see the discoloration of the concrete from the drainage. And if you can see it all in back, you'll see there is Mount Trashmore, and of course there's a whole series of barrels there, and we have no idea what was or is in those barrels.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, we're here at Pleasure Beach, which the bridge going across Pleasure Beach is where Lewis Gut drains into Bridgeport Harbor and Long Island Sound. And off to my right, you look at the green salt marsh along the edges, you have the beginning of the Great Meadows salt marsh, which is 700 acres of federally protected land, which is becoming a national park. But just before you get there is the opening of Johnson Creek. And that's where the pollutants from Mount Trashmore clearly run into Johnson Creek, and Johnson Creek drains right down through here, laying its toxins all throughout that salt marsh, where they're more likely, where they are much likely, very likely to be picked up by the tiny organisms that try to clean the sound and clean the pollutants going into it and the discharges going into it. Up here on the bridge, frequently you'll see people fishing, and they're fishing not for small fish, they're fishing for the top of the food chain, the bluefish. And the same out here. Here we've got the dock on Pleasure Beach. You'll see there's several people out there fishing now, and the tide is changing. This really isn't the best time for it. And if you went off to our left, there's actually Pleasure Beach itself, and you'll seldom see a high tide with less than 10 or 12 fishermen out there as well. Now, when we look at Long Island Sound and we see that the federal government is spending several $billions on cleanup, and at the same time we have the City of Bridgeport and the state DEP ignoring Mount Trashmore, which is a new source of pollution for that sound. This is just utter environmental and economic nonsense. It's time for us to begin to pay attention to where the heavy metals pollution is coming from and stopping it at its source, so that we're not wasting the billions of dollars we plan to spend on cleaning the sound up.
Bill, racism.
What?
The race.
Pleasure Beach, Lewis Gut, this dock here and this bridge here are in the heart of a low-income community, largely consisting of black and Latino people. Many of the people you see fishing here are not fishing because they enjoy the sport. They're fishing for food. because they don't have the money. And they're fishing for fish to resell to other people. Fish become a major part of their diet. And if they're taking in these toxins and these pollutants, what we really have here is the state DEP turning its back on a major health hazard, because the DEP today has fish advisories for Long Island Sound, for both bluefish and striped bass in Long Island Sound. By ignoring the toxins coming into this sound from Mount Trashmore, we're seeing discrimination at its absolute worst. This is environmental discrimination. You go back and you say, what's environmental discrimination? Let's look at the spending. From the beginning, Mount Trashmore was allowed to develop because DEP would not spend the money to enforce the law to stop it from accumulating. In the second phase, they went to court, they did their depositions, they took the people with assets, the haulers that bought the materials there, the generators of the waste, they let them off the hook, and they sued the people they knew were bankrupt. Again, discrimination against this community. We're not going to do anything significant. The actual outcome of the Mount Trashmore lawsuit was predetermined. Nobody had the money to clean it up through the legal system. Yet we prosecuted them and let the people with the assets and with the cleanup money off the hook. And finally, when it comes to the cleanup itself, they would not spend the money for testing to determine whether it's hazardous waste or not in any significant testing. And they're taking the cheap way out. They're saying, let's burn it in the incinerator, let's illegally burn it, let's burn it in a machine that's designed only to do municipal solid waste, because that incinerator also sits in the heart of a minority community. This is environmental discrimination. We can spend the money on the white communities, but we can't spend the money on the Black and Latino communities. We can spend them on the wealthier communities, but we can't spend it on the lower income communities. And perhaps the most vicious part of that policy is that these are the communities, the low income people, who have to rely more on the fish for part of their diet.
I'm just getting a shot.
By itself. We just have to make sure that we get it. Oh, I gotta get something to pry it with.
I don't think that you can come blood samples.
Well, if he takes a picture of me taking this is a listed hazardous waste. It's creosote. That in itself makes the whole pile hazardous.
Do you see that? Is the picture sufficient?
I don't know.
I mean,
Like an abrasive wheel. It's also a post treated with creosote, and it goes right up in and under. There's a second post which is also treated on the ends. There's copper tubing.
Careful.
Don't know why, but that's not. There's BX cable here. I'll show you the BX. VX with the wire and the wire covering still on there. Those coverings have lead on them. Right off that post. Really take that piece right there. You know what I'm that this has like.
Go ahead, Bill.
Running. If you look at this end, which is clean, right? Then you come up the post. You can see by the time you get here, it's treated with creosote. Very clearly listed hazardous waste. The same with this piece that's chipped off. It's a little more apparent. This is the piece that comes off there. It's a little more apparent there. You can see at the bottom it's clean, and then as you come up it's treated.
What kind of it? I mean, what is it?
It's plastic. It's very dangerous. And it's not permitted in our area. That almost looks like a lead pipe up there. It smells a hell of a lot better than this water. See all these pipes and cables sticking out.
Yeah.
Let's get a close up and show you. That's just full as ever. See that VX cable and the conduit? That looks like a lead pipe up there, but I can't tell. See all that VX has got wire in it. And the wire's got those coatings.
Okay, Bill, what is that?
Sodium hydroxide solution, corrosive material, UN 1824, liquid caustic 25. Okay.
How many do you see there?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay. All right.
Partially full and fairly clearly leaking onto the ground. I'm going to get out of it. Wearing my shoes. And if we go over here to the pile, okay, we need someone to come down here.
Looking around to see if there's anything good here.
Do you see anything
I was
that...
thinking this road cone I might take.
That sheet lead right there. We need someone to come down here and
Who does
identify
that?
this stuff.
I don't know.
We have a garbage
There's
cipher.
no rust on it anywhere.
Well, yeah. Hey, Bill. My hands are too cold to stay here. Okay. We're at the intersection of Central and DeForest, looking at the property operated by Gino Capizzello Jr., doing business as Central Recycling. that bulldozer has two 55-gallon drums in the bucket. It actually looks like 3 drums because there were 2 lengthwise and 1 sideways.
9:15 Sunday morning, November 15th. Up here digging through the pile, we found some kind of abrasive wheel that's got a netted type fiber on both sides and some sort of material poured between it. We're going to remove some of this for testing. And you know, everywhere I've looked this morning, there is no place that I've been able to stand where I could not find some form of hazardous waste. In particular, a lot of small pieces of creosote, such as this. This is just one place. I found very similar amounts in almost everywhere I've stood. In fact, I've stood in several places this morning, and within my line of sight and within the reach of this stick, each time I've looked, I've been able to find some small pieces of material with creosote on them, and which very clearly shows that the pile is impregnated with a listed hazardous waste, creosote.
You want to clean up the other barrels? I mean the other wheels?
Also, BX cable. The BX cable runs throughout the entire pile, and inside that BX, if you look closely here, you'll see that the wires are still inside, and they still have the plastic coatings on them, which of course become hazardous when they're burned. Also, we got here, we have a big pile of roofing cans.
What's in there?
See, I'm looking for the label now. This is heavy-duty flashing cement. Caution, combustible, avoid prolonged contact with skin and breathing of vapor or mist. Do not take internally. Close container after each use. Use with adequate ventilation. Petroleum asphalt. Petroleum solvent. Petroleum asphalt. CAS 8052-42-4. Petroleum solvent. CAS 805241-3. Crystalline. Crystotile asbestos, encapsulated, CAS 12001-29-5. And of course, anything burned at 2,000 degrees will no longer be encapsulated. And as you can see, there are just dozens and dozens of these roofing cans, all through here, all down alongside of the pile over there. In fact, this part of the pile seems to be impregnated with them. They're all over the place. It's certainly a form of asbestos. Here we have General Electric F72T12CW cool white light. Fluorescent light almost certainly contains mercury. Here's another one right down here. I'm going to find any other label on it. And not only does it contain mercury, but the glass is almost certainly leaded glass. Paint cans. Roofing material all through the piles. This type of roofing material. I got here some fire hose. And I'm going to take a sample of this and take it with us. It's clearly got a rubber inside and it looks like some kind of asbestos coating, but we'll have to have it tested to see. Some more cans of roofing material. Tires, more plastic, more roofing materials. Type of roofing material. By the way, we're on the east side of the pile now, facing Central Avenue, and we're, I would estimate, about 50 feet from Johnson's Creek. More creosoted material, chipped off old pilings. Small pieces of roofing material, may or may not contain asbestos. Very small pieces. Very clearly, I think, a treated piece of treated wood. Very clearly, I said what we got was and we're going to test some of this, but we of course can't test them all. That's not like testing We have here barrels, some motor oil. Here we've got fuel oil conditioner, whatever that means. Unfortunately, we can't read the labels. See, there are several other barrels here. We also have the corroded bottom of a container of chlorofluoromethane, CAS number 7569-4, and its net weight is 45.4 kilograms. Produced by Racon Industries Incorporated, 6040 South Ridge Road, Wichita, Kansas. In the event of spill or leak, you can't read the rest of the warning label on there. You can see it's definitely rotted out. There's still material inside it. This needs to be tested. Drum labeled hydraulic oil. Over here. I don't know if we can get a clear shot of this. Here, we have another blue barrel, similar to the one picture to your time. In CCA, whatever that company is, you can see it's clearly put in the pile. You can't budge it. So we don't know how many of these. railroad ties and lots of little chips of broken roofing material. Down around here where this is a very important point, because as you can see from the ground, much of the runoff from the pile comes right out through here. You see you got these green colors, mossy colors over here, or whatever they happen to be. It's not moss, so everything is even alive. And then it gets to the ground. What you can do is you can just trace where the water runs and where the leachate comes out, right over to here, which is now blocked up from all the current carrying all these pieces of wood here out to the street and into Johnson Creek. Again, there isn't a piece of ground that's not impregnated with roofing materials. Piece of metal pole. Plastics. Lots of plastics, lots of PVC and various other grades of plastic, all of which should not.
Okay, Bill.
Okay, this is another piece of fire hose, which is all through the pile, goes up and around. It's not something that's going to be easily seen or removed when you're pulling it out with a front end loader. I'm cutting a little sample of it out for testing. Okay. That's the outer coating. See, there's rubber on the inside. That's the outer. I suspect that this is asbestos.
I took 2 samples out of 1.
clean back.
I don't know what I'm seeing here. Yeah. I can't see in this damn viewfinder.
That could be.
Can't even get up high enough anyway. This is not, I can't tell what I'm getting. We are recording.
Let's see if we go low. I think that's bad. I think it's back to that. Let's see if it's blue.
It looks like there's a,
Let's get over the other side.
it looks like there's a film over this camera of some kind. how it goes
Yeah.
backwards.
Why is it
This-
so
this-
badly out of? Oh, I see. Okay,
that
now
brings
okay.
it up.
Okay.
You don't. I mean, the camera is focused. It's the viewfinder
Sure.
that's not focused. So I'm
Okay.
gonna lift that
So
up.
you have to lift it up. Okay. Okay. Great.
Does that Can you can move it around and see how
Okay.
it'll
Now, this is
automatically adjust
off.
the light and everything.
Okay.
That's the lens
is.
cover.
Oh, this is the lens cover. Off is.
The top switch where the green button is.
Okay.
Push it to the middle.
You have a wide lens on.
If there's more.
It'll say, it won't say stand
It says record.
Okay? Get it?
Not well. Shit, I can't get it focused.
Now when he comes by, when he comes by here,
Okay.
and when he comes out of the street, get that load cover. Carol?
Yeah, I can't find the focus. Okay. Bill, which way? This way? It's very dark. It's very dark.
That's all right, jump in. Camera will take care of it itself. Just, you know how to focus it, right? It's up here. This way you use the zoom.
Okay.
Okay? Let's go find him now. We saw him load up. Now we gotta follow him over there. We need to get some numbers on this truck. We need to get his number plate.
I'm nervous about doing this because I don't know how to operate this.
Remember, we need to get the number plate. There's no load cover. Anytime we can get a picture of him.
There's no
without a
load cover on this truck,
That's right. And he just filled up from Mount Trashmore.
and he just
We
filled
saw
up
him
from
fill
Mount Trashmore.
Is
Is that another one coming back?
He's
Did you
doing
get that one?
Fill up.
Okay.
Probably is. Maybe we'll go back and get that one.
Okay.
This guy go. Let's get.
There he goes. There he goes.
You want to get the number? Get a picture of that load.
There's smoke coming out of the material he's got in the truck.
No load cover on
There's
it.
no load cover on it.
It's Anthony Julian.
It's Anthony Julian.
Oh, get that number plate if you can.
Where's the plate?
H335.
3-3. The load is steaming. There's smoke coming out of it, and of course it's an open load, uncovered.
Where'd it come from?
It came from Mount Trashmore.
Did you see them filling
We
it?
saw them filling it. Okay.
He's going to turn up here. It'll be nice if you can get to see the side of the truck.
Want me to jump out? Is he gonna have the light red?
Just go through it.
Uh-oh, there's something that came up on the screen.
Let me see. What came up?
I don't know. It's like a barrier?
T-Red.
What does that mean?
Connect recycling trash to energy facility. Don't worry about it. Just
Okay.
I don't think you have to. I know what that is. That's a title. You hit something that brought
Oh,
the title
shit.
up. But don't worry about it.
Oh.
Let the title stay there.
Steam coming off because there's still a considerable amount of steam.
Now we're
being released.
traveling at how fast are we traveling?
We're traveling at about 48 miles an hour,
Okay, and is there a load cover on that?
and there's no load cover on it. The steam is very visibly coming off of it.
Are there chips and dust and stuff coming off?
Yes, there is. There are. I I just saw a piece of debris hit the ground near the guardrail. The stuff is flying out. Another piece just flew out. Steaming hot load, it looks like. See, it's hard to get the numbers off the vehicle because they're dirty. I'm shooting it, but
It's going to be bouncing around.
it's bouncing around, and so am
I'll
I.
get as close as I can.
It is H, what is it, 33500?
80.
80?
33580. You have to read that because you're the witness.
Okay. H33580 is correct, Connecticut.
Shoot it now?
Yep,
No, there's enough light there.
I got it. I don't know, oops. Of course, I'm going to be picking it up right.
Let's get up as close as we can.
That's it, H33580. I should be in gang buses or something. To the incinerator.
Approach to the incinerator. Okay, this is Howard Avenue here.
Okay, we're on Howard
We
Avenue.
have to draw a map of this when we get mad.
I hope we got it all. Can we follow another truck just to be sure?
Well, I don't know if we got the time.
Okay, this is Howard Avenue.
Yeah.
Okay. Turn it off?
To expedite the service. We should be able to pick him up right here. There he is. That's him, isn't it?
Yep,
Oh, was that him or was that?
I think so.
There he is, the green one, right? That's the one. See if you can get it. Maybe that is it.
Okay.
Hold on, let me put that. That is green on this side.
Yeah, no, I thought it was a
Get the side of the truck. Yeah, that's it. Just get that clean piece on top.
Okay.
It's truck number 150.
truck number 150. The
Okay.
piece of debris still sticking up on top.
Right. Now he stopped at the weigh station.
He's stopping at the weighing
He did
station.
stop there, and now he's going back around to the
He's going back around to the entrance. I see
Still
that.
no load cover.
Yeah, still no load cover.
Where's he going? Get him now. See where he turns.
He's turning.
Leaving?
He's leaving.
He's going to go to the right.
Made a right-hand turn, yeah. Go on.
Now
No, he
let's go
just
back.
stopped straight ahead there. He's parked there.
Is it?
No,
That's not him.
it's not him.
Didn't have anything in the truck?
No. Okay. He didn't pull out the lead. He's standing here parked. Let me just get the vehicle number. Let me out. I'm gonna. As you can see, the vehicle's the same. And it's Anthony Julian. The debris sticking out of the top of the truck. And I'm just getting a little verbal harassment.
We know the number, so we can check
Okay,
out the license number.
The truck is just pulling away from the plant. It's empty. The material has been discharged, although we didn't see it discharged. He was inside the plant, and we're following him out of the plant right now onto, looks like he's going back to,
We need to get the number again.
yeah, we're trying to get the number.
Just trying to not let us get it. I think those trucks up that fast.
Yeah, he's coming up the ramp to 95.
We're gonna see if we can shoot that plate again.
It's going to be tough on here.
Okay, now you have to read that.
I have to read that plate right now. This plate is the same.
What is it?
H33580. And I don't know that the camera's picking it up because the light is...
There's junk falling out of the truck onto the road.
They have old rags falling out onto the road, although, and debris and stones.
another
Oh
piece
yeah, a
of
lot of
debris.
pieces of debris falling out, even though, oh, and it just hit my car. And
No load cover.
no load cover. But has it been discharged?
Yeah, it's empty.
It's empty.
Yeah.
The truck is
No, that's
empty.
just the stuff from dumping.
What's falling out is just the residue that's
Get
stuck
that
to the
rag.
back cover.
Right, then get that rag.
And there's a rag hanging over the back. There were 2 of them, I think. But there's one now. Okay. Same truck, same license. I hope the camera picked up the license. If not, I will verify that it's correct indeed. Seating up 95 on 95, and there's still material falling off of the catch cover on the back. And we're gonna try and get alongside of him maybe and get his past him or no? No, we can't do that. Okay. We're coming off of the exit 29 Stratford Avenue. Why did you do that?
Well, he may go down and stop in the middle of the street, so you block the road from us. And try to take the camera.
Oh. Oh my.
We just have to be prepared.
Oh, okay. Good thinking, Bill.
I don't think we're gonna go this.
Where are we, Bill?
This is Newfield Avenue and Seaview.
Newfield Avenue, Seaview. Okay.
Go down and turn left. He didn't go back to Trashmore.
He's not going back to Trashmore. Probably to turn around and come and break my... Uh-oh. Oh, gee. Been approached by the driver. Wanted to know what we were doing. I'm sure he knew. Now stuff is still falling off that vehicle.
I want to get a couple of shots of them refilling.
We're back at Mount Trashmore, and it appears they're getting ready to load up again. There's so much steam coming off of the piles there. Yes.
You can see there's no soaking or loading or anything.
Everything is at a standstill, although that loader just changed position when we got here. Bill, should I walk around the other side and...
Come on and get in the car.
Okay.
Get in and we're gonna go away now.
Okay.
And let them get a little
Okay, that's it for now.
So we'll give them a
We
few
just
minutes.
unfortunately passed a Patrick truck, and they were working today also. I didn't get them on the film, though. We'll hopefully... We're
Just get a
back at
quick
the
shot.
site.
Get that load going.
Back at the site.
Yeah.
Got it. We've got to pull away. ECN